here on my YouTube channel, Educational Norm. Welcome to the show. I realize that we don't have anybody here live, which is what I was expecting. So this is not an issue. I've come used to when we have live events that we have very few people turn in. Busy schedules, beautiful weather, it all comes together. So totally get it. And that's why we record everything. We make sure that people can get it. So this is the grand finale of our first full season of Educational Norm after the new reboot. Prior to the reboot, it was just me talking like this, and it was about different topics about education, things that I was training at the time. And this past year, I started interviewing people, and for the last 21 Tuesdays, I've been able to talk with so many great educators and one non-educator. Uh, Only in term, when you talk about Daryl, a good friend of mine, uh, that piece of what he does is truly educating others about how to live and deal with addiction. So, all of these educators that have appeared on the show, I have to say, have been tremendous. I can't say enough about how much I've learned just from talking with each and every one of them. I had three authors, I had former students, former colleagues, current clients of mine that are just inspiring and work really hard to do what's best for kids, and just some educators that I think needed to be spotlighted. And I think if we go through that list of people that have been on this show, um, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better group of people when it comes to education. I had some world class people and I had some local teachers that probably nobody's ever heard of, but are truly making a difference in the kids' lives that they have every day. So I wanted to recap this past year a little bit and then tell you what's in store for next year, because next year we are changing the programming slightly. It's going to be very similar to this year. It's going to include some of your repeat people that came in this past year with, high interest. But also, we're going to try to do some new things, and we'll get into that here in a second. So, as we look through this past year, like I said, we had 21 different people be involved with the Educational Norm channel, and, I was very pleased and surprised, honestly, how many people are willing to get on here and talk with me for about an hour, and tonight will not be an hour. I have hockey at 8 o'clock, and I'm not gonna miss that, so I'm gonna try to get done here probably 15, 20 minutes at the most. But when you look at the list of people that I've had on here, I had the Ohio Teacher of the Year in Danae Pinkney, a great talk, and a very inspiring educator, and to hear her story about how she thought about giving it up. And I think that says a lot about the climate of teaching right now. It's a struggle for a lot of people. And I have to say that when you have one of the best teachers in Ohio considering other options, it makes you really realize the crisis that we're in education when it comes to keeping, hiring and retaining good teachers. It is difficult. And I hear that in almost every school I go to. Kids are different, parents are different, standards are have to be taught. The demands on the teacher from the state, from the school, from whomever, really is difficult for anybody to endure. And a lot of people that we talked with this year, like Amanda Price, who's a teacher out in Independence, this was not what she started out being. She actually gave up a very good paying job, a well paying job, to come back to education or come into education because that was her passion. And I think that's why this is so difficult when we hear about teachers that are leaving, is because we know that this is not an easy decision on that idea of their passion being torn apart because of current trends in education. That is why I think the role that I play and administrators play is really to make sure that we're supporting teachers and giving them the best tools possible. And as my saying always goes, and the way I always close off every show is be kind, be professional, and find solutions. I think sometimes we forget to be kind to the people that are entrusted with our kids every day. And it's important that we make sure that this doesn't continue in this trend. I'm afraid that if it does, we won't have the best people available. We'll just be getting people that are struggling to find a job because some states are loosening the regulations on what it takes to be a teacher. And we really can't have that if we want to have the best opportunities for our kids. So, with that being said, if we go through the list, there are several of the former students of mine that I just want to point out because to me, that is how I measure success is to make sure that the people that I taught still have value, feel that I have value, that they would want to talk to me. You never know how that's going to go, especially with middle school kids and high school kids that you've had. It's always interesting to sort of catch up on their lives. But the first one I had that came in was, Chris Rupp. He's the special ed director in Blissfield Schools where I started, and his family was a big part of that community. It was fun to catch up with Chris and his wife, who we are hopefully going to get next year. Renee doesn't know that yet, but she will be, asked here shortly. Um, Renee was also a volleyball player of mine and a student of mine, and so in that small little community, there are so many people that have gone into education and all for the right reasons. Um, we talked to Kayla Christ, who was Kayla Brown when I had her in school. Another one that's a homeschool mom, which is phenomenal. She has 5 great kids that have been very successful after leaving homeschool and going attending private school, or I'm sorry, public school in their high school years. And very well balanced, successful, very smart. You can just have conversations with their kids, and it really is an amazing process that you can hear from her and what she does for her kids on a daily basis to make it the best situation possible. When we start getting into other people like Lon Smith, another former student, um, Lon is another one that's a true success story, and I just love that he was able to come on and talk about his role in special education and his expertise in Title IX. Um, it, the list goes on and on. I mean, it's really amazing to me when we start talking to educators, and I'm going to just run through the names really quick so you can remember some of the best ones that you like. Dr. Karen Hess was one of them. She's out in Vermont. And if you haven't read any of her books, I would highly recommend getting into it with her cognitive rigor matrix and how she deals with depth of knowledge. World of information, a plethora of knowledge. I just like saying that word. But she truly is one of the leading educators in the world at this point at understanding how to implement uh, rigor and depth in your curriculums. I already mentioned Lon and Amanda Price and Kayla Christ and Danae. We also had Joe Spicia, who was superintendent of the year here in Ohio a few years, 2 years ago. Dr. Kelly Moran, who was a reading specialist, but gave us an update on the ESC here locally on what they're doing with their training. Mentioned Daryl. We had Adam Tomko, who's the principal at Chardon High School, and I'll be working with Chardon teachers here in the next few weeks. We're doing Potter's poolside PD this summer, so I have 2 groups of teachers coming out this summer to learn a little bit about science of reading and teaching vocabulary, and then we're going to go into writing across the curriculum. Um, 3 areas that I've worked with schools and also personally as a teacher, so it's that will be a fun session for each one of those. We had the technical guru, Jake Miller, who's also a personalized method teaching. When you get into the personalized learning format, he is one of the top-notch people that I know here in Ohio. Um, Bill Mayer, who's an assistant principal at Chardon Hills STEM School. He has a book out called Kid Connector, another great thing to look into if you haven't seen it yet, and also hear his story if you go back and listen to what he has to say. Eric Francis, another internationally known uh, author, speaker, understanding of depth of knowledge. Um, again, another person I just can't speak highly enough of the work that he does and the knowledge that he has. Um, we've connected over the last year, and I just always enjoy hearing the next thing that he's bringing out. I know there's a couple conferences there in Arizona that he's promoting right now. So if you get a chance to check out Eric's work, he has several books as well, and I think that you'll learn a lot from each one of those. Um, we had a relative by marriage, Hallie Madewell, down in Tennessee. So Eric was out in Arizona. He's probably the furthest west, and Tennessee, not the furthest south, but one of my favorite all-time places down there. She's in Murfreesboro, and I always love going to Nashville if I can every year. So that's a great little stop. But Hallie is a third grade teacher down there, and Another one that started off in a different profession and found education is where she should be. So it was great talking with her. I met a new person, Paul Warsencroft from the Bedford area here in Ohio. Started his own business to help teachers understand wealth and how to, plan for retirement. Wealth of knowledge there if you're looking for that kind of information. Michael King, a former colleague of mine, who's now the principal at Geneva High School, where I do some work with their teachers. Um, Michael has been in education in very different realm, different practices. He was a politician first, and then he came into the world of education and has been assistant principals, teachers, principals at various levels. Just a great wealth of information there. We had Monica Dietz, who works for the Diocese of Cleveland, is basically focused on the curriculum instruction piece, and she is the one that brought in standards-based grading with the help of the diocese, and now that's something that's being done K through 4, I believe. I want to say 5 might be rolling out in 2 years, but I'm not sure on those dates, so don't quote me on that one. Cheryl McDonough, one of my mentors for many, many years, she was the one that told me 15, actually now almost 20 years ago, that I should get into consulting. And um, she was out in Massachusetts at the time. She now lives in New Hampshire, and still just a ball of energy and just so much fun to listen to and talk with. She already is thinking about coming back next year with the new format or the new programming, and we'll talk about that here in a second. August Ost, a former student of somebody that I had in Dundee. I knew of. Actually, I didn't have him. I was an assistant principal, so that's it's not the same in my eyes. But it's August was there in Dundee when I was there, and now he's the superintendent of schools in the neighboring district at Summerfield. Young and excited about his new position and doing a great job there. I had Elijah Wan Cooper, the minister of culture. I love talking with Elijah Wan anytime I get a chance. He's a 6'4", 6'5", mass of a man that played quarterback in high school and really an elegant speaker and very knowledgeable and does what's best for kids all the time. It really is a great time to talk with Elijah Wan anytime you can. And last but not least of that list was Leslie Garrett. She's my neighbor. She's, I see her coming and going as she's going to work and I'm going to work, but she's the International Baccalaureate Coordinator for UHCH, which is University Heights, Cleveland Heights, which is where the Kelsey boys are from. So if you know anything about football, that's their well-known people from the district. But Leslie was another one that just has a wealth of information and really is interested in what's the next thing in education that we had to be prepared for, knowing that International Baccalaureate is a very quality program, but how to enhance it even more for kids. So here we are in the season finale, and next year, with the plan going forward, uh, we are going to change it because before this past year was about hearing people's stories and things that they do currently and how they got where they're at. Next year, I have 3 different aspects that we're going to be covering. I'm going to be asking teachers, and if you are interested and you're listening to this and you want to be one of those teachers, we're going to be asking teachers to talk about and share with your audience your favorite lesson that you teach. And I'm going to have all levels, try to have as many subjects as possible, art, foods, all those things that we have that are sometimes unique. I'm trying to connect people that are, for instance, foods teachers. We did this with 2 teachers that I was working with in the last couple years. I connected those 2 just to have somebody to bounce ideas off of and how do you order and how do you do things that your typical teacher doesn't have to do. It's always good to have those networks just to be able to talk with each other. So I'm going to do favorite lessons so you can hear what other people are doing in those classrooms that you don't get a chance to see. We are going to have round tables where we're going to gather elementary school teachers and just have them talk about things that are going on in their classroom, things that concern them, things that are exciting to them. And again, if you are interested in being on those roundtables, we'll bring in 5 to 10 of you, and I'll just ask questions and just open it up and let everybody talk. Those should be fun, and I'm looking forward to those as many as we can get of those. That's going to be a lot of fun because it's more than just one person, and the bouncing and sharing ideas is why this whole network, this whole thing exists. Then we're going to get into specific topics. We could have topics like PBLs. We could have portfolios. We could have the science of reading. We could have standards-based grading. We could have pretty much anything that you're looking for. I have a list of people and topics that I currently am going to be asking audience members, hopefully, to come in and talk about those things that I consider experts or specialists in those areas. But if there is something that you are really good at and you're willing to talk with me for about an hour, then we will have you on as well. So the goal is to mix it up a little bit. And now that we heard some people's stories, I want to get back to what teachers have been asking for, and not just nuts and bolts, but also just the mental state of how things can be handled. So I hope that you'll be able to join us, and I hope that you'll find value in what we're doing. I never expected this to be a huge audience by any means. I'm looking to just fill a niche and get my name out there because my business, I work in about 19 different schools. I teach a couple classes. Past semester at Kent. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. So Kent State main branch and Kent State Geauga, I'll shout out there. Um, but I'm basically based in Ohio, but I travel, and right now I'm traveling on different parts of Ohio. I have 3 more things this school year before it wraps up. I have, I'm with the St. Francis, who I've been with since basically day 1 of this new business of structured creativity consulting. I've been able to stay on and grow with them as a consultant as they're growing as teachers, and that's been a great, partnership because when you're not in the elementary classroom for a long time, it's good to get your feet back in there and just see what kids are like. So they've helped me be better at what I do, and hopefully I've helped them. So that's one of my 3 that I have to do, that I get to do. I won't say have to do, I get to do. I have one more at Lakeside High School, which, if you followed their story, you know that they've had a pretty tumultuous year. No fault of their own by any means, but they had their high school roof collapse and they had to occupy a building downtown in the harbor and another elementary school, and they had to move the elementary school kids, and bus schedules changed. It was just a all out, for lack of a better term, it wasn't a fiasco because Superintendent Newsom and the high school principals and all the community members and the board, what a great job to be able to get those kids back to school as quick as possible. When you think about losing your entire high school building, along with teaching supplies and materials and all those things, they missed a grand total of 3 days, which is just phenomenal. It's unbelievable what they were able to do in such a short amount of time. And then my very last session of the year will be the Chardon teachers coming from the high school. And like I said, we're going to be working on some different things around the pool side. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of great work and great conversations going on there. It's a nice, relaxed atmosphere, but a lot of heavy thinking going to happen there. So I'm looking forward to that. So I want to thank you for the end of year 1 and all your support for those that are listening. And for those that are not quite sure if you should be tuning in, tune in. I'm sure you'll find somebody, even if I'm sure it won't be me, but I'll sure you'll find somebody that's going to be that person that will give you an idea that you can then use in your classroom. So I'm really hoping that our subscriptions go up a little bit. Word of mouth is always great. And I hope that you're getting something out of these on a basis of week to week so we can make sure that we're doing well for you. Well, my 20 minutes is up. I want to make sure I'm ready for hockey. I'm ready to give it up for the year. So, starting August 5th, we'll be back with our first new guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet because I have to make sure they're going to confirm. But starting August 5th, Educational Norm will return for season 2. And until then, be kind, be professional, and find solutions. Have a good night, everybody.